What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and things are a little bit wacky today. All right, I might have slept past my alarm because I had friends over last night to watch the game, and then on Saturday I was at a 21st birthday party, so there's a lot going on this weekend. It happens. All right, so this is going to be a super late upload, maybe like 9:30 p.m. by the time this actually gets up. I think this is 8 p.m., so hopefully I finish recording by the time the Monday night game kicks off, and then things will get rendering, all that good stuff. Now, I just recorded the waiver wire video tomorrow. Now, again, this video is going to be a little bit later than usually, so make sure you go down below, you leave a like. It helps us out a ton in the algorithm. Now, today we're going to get into our top 10 lessons learned from week 5 of fantasy football. We're going to get into 10 things that were my observation, my takeaways, my lessons learned. Now, with all that being said, let's not waste any more time. Let's go.
Thirsty, trying to choose. I know I'm critical. My nitty bag.
All right, so our first takeaway from the weekend is that Justin Herbert needs to be in the conversation for that like MVP elite quarterback tier. You know, he is no longer just this, like budding star in his second year. Like he kind of reminds me of, where, okay, so this is going to be wild to say, but he reminds me kind of where Mahomes was in year 2. Now, obviously that's like his first year starting. Mahomes in year 2, Lamar Jackson in year 2 when he had that MVP kind of tour, that kind of year 2 jump for a quarterback. And I remember a lot of people saying, Herbert's going to see a sophomore slump and all that. And it's actually pretty funny, the people that said that. I was never like, pounding the table, Herbert's going to be amazing. I was pretty much just where market has been on Herbert. But it's crazy because there's nothing that would make you think that he would have a sophomore slump besides just sophomore slump being a saying. And maybe you can point to Baker Mayfield. But Justin Herbert has been insane. The Chargers are now 4-1, and Herbert has really solid wins over the Chiefs, the Raiders, the Browns. Yesterday, he was just in an absolute shootout. Also, shout out to Brandon Staley, man. Brandon Staley, their head coach. Now, obviously, this is a Justin Herbert observation, but the amount of times that they have gone for it on like 4th and 7 and like 4th and 10 and 4th and 8 this season, just hanging their nuts on the table for everyone to see, it's been amazing. Having faith in your quarterback and converting a lot of those. And Herbert's played amazing. He just consistently, he makes plays, he rolls out of the pocket, he throws dimes. And I think you can make a case for him as MVP this far. And, he is in that, to me, in terms of real-life quarterbacking, he is, and when I mean real-life quarterbacking, you can also apply this like dynasty fantasy football and a little bit to seasonal, but he is in that Josh Allen, Mahomes, Russ, Brady tier of quarterback at this point. He is the 3rd highest PFF graded quarterback at this point, and this is an interesting stat from Field Yates here I just wanted to bring up. He is the second, or he has the second most passing yards to his first 20 games, and he has 7 games of 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions, the most by any quarterback through his first 2 seasons. And the wild part is that he's only 5 games into year 2 with that stat. So he should probably have more of those such games throughout the season. So he is just insane. He's on an insane trajectory. Now, our second takeaway is that fading Jamar Chase and Kyle Pitts this year just because they were rookies was bad process. And I saw a lot of popular takes this offseason where a lot of these mainstream guys were, fade Kyle Pitts, fade Chase for bad reasons. With Chase, they were fading him because of preseason drops, which is fucking ridiculous. And then they were also fading him because of, Calvin Johnson wasn't that great in his rookie year. And, if you look at, Amari Cooper, his rookie year, he wasn't that great. Here's the thing, man. Like, those guys were 5, 6, 7 years ago. We have seen time and time again, these past, 3 years. I don't know what it's in the water in the NCAA, but recently rookie wide receivers have been great. Justin Jefferson was great. CeeDee Lamb through the first however many games was great. Ayuk was great last year. All these players finished as like CeeDee Lamb before Dak went down was like a wide receiver 1. Justin Jefferson was a wide receiver 1. Like players can finish as wide receiver 1s, and Jamar Chase is a different breed of rookie. Now we'll get into that in a second, but Pitts was also faded, because rookie tight ends don't produce. Look at Vernon Davis. Here's the thing, man. Vernon Davis is the only prospect that can even sniff Kyle Pitts. And the problem is, Vernon Davis played in an era where tight ends aren't used the way they are now. Kyle Pitts is lining up at wide receiver on like 90% plus of his snaps. Vernon Davis was getting used as a blocking tight end during his era. Like 2005 was such a different time than right now. And people also pointed out, Evan Ingram, he has like one of the best rookie seasons of all time. Didn't even crack like 700 receiving yards. Here's the problem, man. You can't compare these guys to them. And don't worry, this is a small W I'm going to take here. But we're going to highlight a bunch of the L's that I took this season. But I always like to leave it off with W's. And this was a take that I had from early earlier in the offseason. And I said, I think the easy take right now is to fade Kyle Pitts and Jamar Chase and redraft. Rookies don't produce right away. But I think we're talking about a different brand of rookie here. And I really do believe that because these guys were top 5 picks as the first non-quarterbacks off the board. And I'm willing to make the exception for them. The thing is that these guys aren't like you cannot compare them because now we're in a new era where these rookie wide receivers are producing more than ever. Kyle Pitts isn't a normal tight end, and we're in an era where tight ends are getting used in the passing game more than ever with guys like Darren Waller and Travis Kelce. These tight ends are breaking like the single season receiving yard record for tight ends like almost every single year at this point. Kittle broke it. Kelce broke it. It's because tight ends are getting used in a very different way at this point. And I never got around to it, but I really wanted to make a video on those two, just talking about how don't fade them because they are rookies. If you're going to fade them, okay, maybe their offense is bad. Maybe you didn't like them as prospects. But Pitts now has a tight end 7. He is now tight end 7 on the year. He had 9 catches for 119 yards and a touchdown yesterday. Now that was against the Jets, but still, as a rookie, that's an insane stat line. And then Chase had 6, 159, and 1 as the wide receiver 7 in PPR. Now these aren't players that I have 50% exposure to, and I have them in 1,000 places. Now Jamar Chase, I actually have in a lot of places because of that August ADP shift. When he started, it's actually hilarious. When he started dropping balls, he started dropping to like the 6th round in those FFPC leagues. I'm in 9 FFPC leagues. $350 buy-ins with the Football Guys Championships. I ended up with Jamar Chase in 4 out of 9 of those. That's like 44% ownership. That's a lot more aggressive than I would have liked, but he was just falling to a stupid spot in those drafts. I took him in all of them. Now, moving on to our next takeaway, our third takeaway. Now, like I said, we're going to pump up my W's, but we're also going to pump up my L's. And I'm going to say both sides of the Zeke argument were right, and both sides of the Zeke argument were wrong. We had on one side, we had the Zeke truthers that really liked Zeke, thought that he was a top 5 running back, and we're saying, Tony Pollard isn't even that good at football. Zeke is the main guy. And then we had guys on my side that said, Zeke Elliott, not that he's washed, but he's not what he used to be, and I think Tony Pollard is going to eat a lot into his workload. And both sides are right and wrong because for me personally, though, Zeke had a slow start. Now he's been great. He's the RB4 at this point, but he was a fade for me because in the offseason, we're really talking about a lot of, what players have that legendary upside. And I still do believe that Zeke lacks it. He's only averaging 19.1 points per game, and he's on a pace for 30 receptions. Guys that have that legendary upside are in that 22 points per game range, 70-plus receptions range. So in my opinion, he doesn't have it. But when the RB landscape is as bad as it is right now, a lot of guys are going down, a lot of guys are getting hurt, and the only guys with that elite upside are probably McCaffrey, Derrick Henry. Dalvin Cook has been hurt. Eckler is in that range. But now that he's the RB4 on the season, he's been fine. If you drafted him top 5, you're fine. And that's fine. And at the same time, people on my side talking about Tony Pollard being talented and being able to get his own touches are right as well because he's been handling, a third of the opportunities somewhere in that range. Now he's the RB22 with 14.3 PPR points just this week. So they've both been great. I think both sides were wrong. Now, I'm not going to take my L on saying that Zeke doesn't have legendary upside because I truly don't believe that he is getting usage to get there, but he still can be a top 5 to 7 running back, which is always what it was. I had him as like a late first. I just was fading him at that top 5 price tag, but he has been fine. He hasn't been sinking teams. And I think if anything, them being so good at rushing is going to be hurting CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. I think both of them had 6 targets this week, so I think Zeke and Pollard are both going to eat just fine. It might limit the rest of the offense. Now, moving on to takeaway, I want to say number 4. Takeaway number 4 is Kadarius Toney is for real. Now, this is going to be another L because Kadarius Toney looked amazing. And I was low on him coming out. Here's the thing, though. I feel like I keep backpedaling for my L's, but just bear with me, fellas. Because with Kadarius Toney, everyone was low on him in Dynasty rookie drafts. I know I've been talking a lot about Dynasty, but a lot of you guys out here that watch seasonal videos and all that kind of understand what's going on here. But even in seasonal drafts, remember, Kadarius Toney was a first-round wide receiver. So was Waddle. So was Devonta Smith. They might have been early in the first round, but they were getting picked inside of the top 10 rounds, and Kadarius Toney was going undrafted in places because people didn't believe in the talent. His prospect profile was bad. Now, I had him as my wide receiver 8 in this class, but I still ended up with him in a lot of Dynasty because people had him, behind guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown and Nico Collins and Amari Rodgers, which is honestly ridiculous. At the end of the day, he's a first-round wide receiver. You have to kind of respect the hit rates on those. And in best ball, I was getting him in the last round of drafts in a lot of underdog leagues. Now, did I expect this at all? No. He just finished for wide receiver 4 on the week in PPR without a single touchdown. He had 13 targets, 10 catches, 189 yards, and 0 touchdowns. 0 touchdowns. He finished as the wide receiver 4. as a rookie with a backup quarterback. And he left the game early because he punched a guy. Now, that's something for another time, but I think that he's going to be fine. Sometimes you punch people, whatever. He's a Florida kid, whatever. It happens to the best of us. But it's insane. He was also, now, Trevon Diggs wasn't shadowing him, but Trevon Diggs was still there, being a menace. And there was even one clip where he burned him on a route, or I don't even know what I would call the route, but he cooked him. And the peripherals also look really good. He was targeted on 54% of routes, so that's 54% targets per route run, which is insane. I think Justin Jefferson had like a 23% last year. That's not going to sustain, but the fact that he got open and commanded the ball like that is huge. He also saw a 93 PFF grade, which is massive. We want over 80 on the season. Kadarius Toney isn't there. I think he's like 76 on the season, but wide receivers with over 80 PFF grades on their rookie year are in like an elite class of wide receiver. We're talking like Antonio Brown, we're talking Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, I want to say AJ Brown, just like pretty much anyone that you can say is like a perennial elite wide receiver from like Justin Jefferson, Odell Beckham, all of those guys. So he's on a solid path to be really good, and I'll take my L on having Kadarius Toney as someone that didn't even deserve to be our first round wide receiver. Now, once he got picked in the first round, all that good stuff, I kind of adjusted things, but I'll take my L on him not being a good wide receiver because I think that he could be this year's like Claypool, Ayuk. He does lack that upside. I really like alpha wide receivers. If he was bigger, I probably would have been a lot more into him. He is, this beta type slot wide receiver, but I think he still can be pretty special. Then we have takeaway number 5, and that's Juju's injury is tough, right? He got a shoulder injury yesterday. He's out for the season, but this is huge for Claypool. He's a massive beneficiary of this injury, and I hope that Juju gets better. I wish the best for him. He's a dude, on a 1-year deal, so that really sucks because, now he can't really show what he's worth, so he's going to get another year. He's going to get another contract, probably on a 1-year deal where he has to prove himself again, which really sucks for him. But this is a big upgrade for Claypool, and that's huge because kind of in the offseason when we were hoping, people like me that were big fans of Claypool, we were hoping for Juju to walk, go to the Ravens, the Chiefs, something like that. So we could have an offense where it's just 2 wide receivers and it'd be a lot more targets for Claypool. Now, we've seen with a 2-game sample on Claypool without Deontay or Juju, he's seen full route participation and has had a 25% target share on 15, 224, and 1. That's massive. He is a firm wide receiver 2 at this point. Shout out to this tweet by Jacob Sanderson, one of the sharpest dudes in the game. So that's a huge upgrade for Chase Claypool. Then we have our next takeaway, which I want to say is like takeaway number 6. And that's that Shenault sucked, but there's a silver lining. There's a silver lining with Shenault. And this is going to be me addressing another L. Shenault has been someone that I was high on. I said buy him everywhere in Dynasty. I still believe in him in the long term, but he is wide receiver 57 on the season. He only saw 1 catch yesterday, and I just refuse to believe at this point that he isn't talented. I know that he only saw 1 catch, like I said, but he had this crazy play where he had a 58-yard catch and run on, it was 1 catch, but he did have that play where he goes like 20 yards on the field, he catches it, breaks a bunch of tackles, goes for 58 yards. He is extremely talented. I really do believe that he's talented, and it's just kind of Urban Meyer mismanaging this offense. There's no reason. You cannot convince me that Shenault is making these plays but then getting outworked in practice by Tavon Austin and Jamal Agnew. You just can't convince me of that. I truly do believe that Urban Meyer just doesn't care. There's some teams out there that I see guys on Twitter talking about it, but some teams don't. When you're in the NFL and you're making an offense, you need to be micromanaging who is getting the ball. You want to have your best players have the ball. He was saying that he didn't even know how many touches James Robinson had in the second half, Urban Meyer. He doesn't keep track of who is actually getting the ball on these plays, what personnel is going out there. A good coach, a good offensive coach has it set up so his best players have the ball. A proportionate amount of time according to their talent. But Urban doesn't do that. Now, the silver lining here is that he played outside, and we want Shenault to get reps on the outside. Now, admittedly, this is kind of a Dynasty 2022 type take, maybe later on in the season, but he was out wide on 86.5% of his snaps with Chark gone, which is huge because prior to that, he was only out there 13.5%. We want to see him on the outside because, like I said, I don't know about in the near term, but in the long term, that role has a lot higher upside. If he can learn to play on the outside, we're looking at targets that have a higher ADOT. He can be out there, be an X-type wide receiver. And we don't want him to be this gadgety guy because that's decent. That's like a wide receiver 3 kind of thing going on here. But if we want, a wide receiver, like top 20 type thing going on here, like a Mike Williams. Mike Williams went from just a deep threat to a true X wide receiver. With Chenault, we want him to be on the outside, get higher A-dot targets, and do everything, not just the intermediate and short area stuff. So that's a small silver lining, is that with DJ Chark out, he's going to get reps on the outside. Now, our next takeaway, I believe this is takeaway number 7, is start all Tampa Bay wide receivers. I said in my start sit video, I'll own up to this. I said sit AB this week in a tough matchup. The Miami corners are great, but never again. I don't think that you can start. I don't think you can sit. I don't think that you can go out here and sit any of these Tampa Bay wide receivers because all 3 of them need to be started, and this offense is too explosive. They put up too many points, and each of these wide receivers can catch a straight touchdown whenever. So just on the idea of that, all of them need to be started. Then takeaway number 8, we have Dawson, Knox, and Dalton Schultz are top 8 to 10 tight ends rest of season. These guys are balling. Dalton Schultz and Dawson Knox are both right now tight end 2 and tight end 3 on the season, as you guys can see in PPR, only behind Kelsey. And Schultz has had over 25% target share the last 3 weeks, which is insane with Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb there. Knox has had a touchdown in each of his last 4 games. Both of these tight ends are going crazy. I don't think that they're really on waivers at this point, but they need to be respected ahead of guys like, Dallas Goedert, Robert Tonyan. Like, I think the only tight ends you can put ahead of them right now are Kelsey, Kittle, Waller, Pitts, Mark Andrews, Noah Fant, and Hawkinson. I think that's literally it. Those 7. Those are the only 7 I take rest of season over Knox and Schultz. Now, number 9 is going to be that Elijah Mitchell is the lead back in San Francisco. He played 44 snaps to Sermon's 2. Now, assuming full health, Mitchell has established himself as that lead back. He is that guy. And I get he didn't produce. He didn't do anything crazy. It's actually pretty funny. I saw people on Twitter. They were talking about, like, why are people victory lapping Elijah Mitchell, all of this. And I get that he didn't do much, right? So he had 44 snaps. I don't think that he put up a lot, maybe like 7 points, 8 points. The key thing here is usage. We follow the usage. So it makes no sense to, kind of put down, especially against a good team like the Cardinals, to put down, Elijah Mitchell for producing. Elijah Mitchell made himself the clear number 1 running back, which is big on this offense. So that's all there is to it. Now, I will say Jeff Wilson's due back very soon. I want to say that he's eligible to come back like as soon as next week. I don't think that he will. We'll see. That could shake things up. But until Jeff Wilson comes back or any other running back comes back, Elijah Mitchell is the lead back. And Trey Sermon is, I wouldn't drop him, but he's borderline droppable. Then our last takeaway from the weekend is that Damian Williams, or no, it's not that Damian Williams. It's that the Bears running back room split was not good. I thought that Damian Williams was going to be, I feel like I'm saying Damian Williams, very weird. I thought that Damian Williams was going to be fine, as a bell cow. He's going to have all the touches in this offense. He saw a touchdown, so that really, boosted his fantasy outlook, but he was in a weird split. Williams saw 16 carries, and Khalil Herbert, the backup running back out of Virginia Tech, he's a rookie. He saw 18 carries. So he saw more carries. He also saw more snaps than Williams. He also had more snaps and touches overall in the second half. They started to lean on Herbert more. So I think it's going to be a split moving forward. I don't know if Damian Williams is even the 1A at this point. Khalil Herbert might get more of those touches. So keep an eye on the Bears running back room, split. Now that's going to do it for us today, fellas. Hopefully this gets up before midnight. We'll see. It's 8:20 at this point. I guess the game's about to kick off. So I'm going to get out of here. As always, I love you guys. Make sure you go down below, subscribe, leave a like, and I'll see you guys in the next one.